On these second Sundays, we want to address and to bless those who are married. And it helps prepare those who maybe aren't yet married, but might be in some time. And of course, we're doing it in ways that anyone can benefit as they hear the principles applied to their lives. All that being said, I want to give us a quick reminder of the intent for this series. We want to uphold God's will. We want to let people know what God says about marriage. So many people just don't view marriage through God's eyes. He was the one who designed it. God's plan is beautiful, but sin causes us to struggle. And if your marriage is hurting, we want to comfort you and encourage you to let you know it is possible to have the blessings God intended for your marriage. And we need to be convinced of that. And in the process, our own growth is vital. So we are challenged to grow, and nothing will challenge us perhaps like marriage in so many ways. I've often said I've learned more about myself in the years of marriage than I did my whole life prior. But one area to grow in, to enjoy exploring and maturing, is in the area of communication. You and I communicate with, we talk with people every day, but how effectively are we communicating with them? We speak with people all the time, but are we clearly conveying what we think and feel, and are we doing the same as we listen towards others? None of us like to be misunderstood. All of us want our words to benefit the situation, and this isn't a relational occurrence, but it's something we can maybe all relate to. If parked in a drive-through speaker, and it's important then to clearly convey what you want. It's not a guarantee you'll get what you want, but good communication will improve the odds that you'll actually get the food that you ordered. That's a good thing to do. Thinking through all these principles apply in every aspect, anytime you have interaction with people. That being said, it certainly applies in marriage. I remember when I was about 16 or 17, walking into a public library, and I checked out a work by James K. Van Fleet. I'll never forget the proverbial introductory warning to generate interest in listening through the whole cassette. Turns out there's a whole program that I just had a small portion of. And it's called Conversation Power. Love it. I encourage you to get it. I still remember it. He said it this way. It's a proverbial truth, so look for the truth within it. It's not a rule, but it's a good general truth. He who can communicate his thoughts will have what he wants or needs. He who cannot is left in poverty. Wow. And you know what? It is a truth. As I connect it to this series, so many marriages are in relational poverty due to poor communication. When thoughts and feelings are not perceived as being well sent and received, then couples feel instantly disconnected, and if not resolved in time, feel increasingly distant. So when you are discussing those very important matters, this lesson is crafted around that intention, those important conversations, more so than others, trivial things. It's very important to take the time to consider, how do I want to say this? What's the right way to say the right thing in the right time and in the right way? So we go to the Proverbs, and there's a key proverb I will soon repeat. And this is one now from the NIV. You'll notice I jump around different versions a lot, especially in the Proverbs. This one says, a wise man's heart guides his mouth, and his lips promote instruction, or that is to say, his words effectively persuade or communicate for the intended result. In all of this, I hope that these 7 keys to marital communication will bless you and in all of your conversations in general. You've heard already that, well, you already know from life experience and from studying of God's Word. He's just blunt about this, and we learn it even before we study it, that communication is not automatic. Good communication, it's a skill to develop. It's not something that we just wake up one day and we're just the best communicators in the world. No, and it's also no surprise that God would give us instruction to help with this. So the very first communication key, this one will test your self-discipline. This one will try your patience, because it is Timing. It wasn't easy to wait. You've heard it said, and there's much truth in this. Timing is everything. Comedians are professional communicators, especially those most successful. They have learned, and it's obvious that if you build up to a punchline, don't say that punchline too early or too late, too quickly or too slowly, or else you won't get the intended result. That's just an example we all relate to. Timing is everything, but the Bible already tells us that. In Ecclesiastes 3:1, there's a time for everything, a season for everything or activity under heaven or under the sun. Well, we hear that, and we may rarely hear the rest of the verses, but verse 7 relates to what we're talking about today. There is a time to be silent and a time to speak. And during that time of silence, we're practicing some of these principles we'll discuss today. There's wisdom then implied in what we do and don't say, and when and how. We learn a lot from trial and error. Think back to everything you know. You had to learn it at some point. You may be so focused and ready to communicate an idea or a thought to your mate, but you might, if you're so focused, miss something in the moment, reading the room, that your spouse may not be ready to hear what you have to say. It may not be the best time. And of course, it's not within our power to always, quote, control how someone reacts to us or reacts to something said. But for best results, we must consider the best timing and wording for whatever must be said. We know this to be true. It just helps to hear this. For example, it may not be wise to bring up some important matter if it's unrelated to whatever your spouse is fully immersed in or immersed by, because that's what their focus is on in that moment. Now, if there's never a good moment, and if there's an imbalance to have no windows of opportunity, I just refer you to our entire Wednesday night 2-quarter series. That will help with that. But another example is